people want to argue with me about whether or not spirituality exists, I have to point them towards some of the greatest music that has ever been made on this planet because it is absolutely divine.
It really is when you hear what people like Mozart created, Tchaikovsky, Chopin, all of Beethoven, all of these great. I mean, just sit and listen to it. It's amazing. It is absolutely incredible, but it's also incredible nowadays. And there's actually been there've been some several. There have been
Some several.
several multiple of all of it. Um, was there was a couple studies done where it showed that progressive like technical metal today is very similar to classical music of hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because it follows your music theory and your layering, and it's mathematically similar. Music does have math in it. I don't know. People are like, wait, what? Yeah, it does.
yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, they've done sad studies with that too. That people who are involved with music can do better at math, and people who are better at math may. I think it's more if you practice music, you get better at math rather than if you're very advanced in math, it doesn't automatically transfer to music. If that makes sense.
I, and that does actually. I guess I'd be anecdotal evidence there because I was really good at music, and I played clarinet for a long time. In the first part of my life, I was terrible at math, but then I just had like this moment as I got older where it was like all of a sudden I see it in terms of musical notes, and oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one thing that I need to do is I need to read more about the music of this. I've heard talk, old timey talk of something like the song of the spheres or the music of the spheres, um, and it refers to the music, the energy, the actual transfer of energy that is going from planet to planet to planet within our solar system, and from the stars and from everything else, and probably from everything around you that you see. Um,
That would
music,
make sense.
music itself is just a sound. It's a vibration. It's energy, right?
Hmm.
That's all it is.
Yes.
That's all it is.
So the first element, which is actually the fifth element, no, not the movie, which yes is great, but
It
the
is.
fifth element actually is the first element or the highest element, which is ether. And ether is that sound or that vibration that creates the structure of all things. And then you have, your earth, your water, your air, your fire. But ether is the element of creation. Um, your Hindu mythologies will tell you that the first sound of creation is that om or that awam
Mm-hmm.
song or sound. Yes,
Om.
but
Om.
literally AUM would be the pronunciation, and the M is the exclamation point of. And it's funny because when we talk about chemistry, AU is gold. Gold
Mm-hmm.
is considered that high divine um, particle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going way too esoteric too
You're
fast.
fine.
But
No, 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 no. That's why
but
we're here. That's why we're here. Go.
that ether, that sound is the element of creation. And whether you're Hindu and you believe it's Aum or Om, or you want to follow a Christian lore where the way that God
Mhm.
created is by
You
speaking.
spoke it. Yeah.
Yes,
He
same
spoke it
concept.
into existence. Yes.
Same concept in every religion that we talk about. There is a creator force that uses the sound pattern of speech, and that vibration is the element of creation.
And everything around you, everything you see around you is just vibration. Um, just some of it very slow, some of it very fast, some of it in between.
Yes, and the electromagnetic spectrum that is taught to you in basic chemistry is the evidence of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a rock is very, very extremely slow
And
moving
dense, yes.
and dense vibrations.
Yes.
It's just sitting there doing nothing and just being very dense and slow. Um,
It's being very dense and slow.
that's all
Sorry,
it's,
it's funny.
that's all it's doing. Whereas lightning or electricity, right? And you just mentioned it. Everything around us, has an electromagnetic force transferring through it in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Um, so, I mean, this is the weird channel. We can go whatever direction we want. Let's talk about whatever the hell we want. Um,
Weird.
yeah, this is the weird room. So, we talked a little bit about this the other day as well. Um, what do you think about the 5Gs and the 6Gs, and now I think they got up to 10G and shit like that. What do you make of all this?
I don't know. I think at the end of the day, there is going to be competing theories to manipulate emotions. And I think the smartest thing that people can do is not move from a place of reacting emotionally
Mm,
first. I think that's key to everything that you
yes,
encounter in life.
yes,
Making yourself aware and informed, and then deciding from there a course of action one way or another. But ultimately, when you start moving from a place that says, I believe this, so I'm doing this, caution yourself. Um, and ultimately, when it comes to the G's, the truth of the matter is, like, our
the
phones are great, right? But
the
they didn't
G's.
actually make us smarter. The internet is
Mm,
available in many ways, but we aren't utilizing it. And I would encourage you, like, if you are on your phone a lot, like, use it to enrich you, and be smart about how much you're on your phone, not just because there's
well,
G's moving through it, but because there are many aspects of life that need your attention
yes,
besides your phone.
right, yeah. It's well, like you said, it's not just the G's. It's more. Boy, I mean, social media. We're on social media right now, and you've heard a lot of people say that. Well, we can connect with anyone in the world in 2 seconds, but
Mhm.
we've never been more distant personally.
In many ways, yes, I would absolutely agree with that. In other ways, I would say that you do have people who have chosen to enrich and open themselves. And it's funny that you're on this topic of social media. Do we ever stop to think about the algorithm, not just in social media, but even spiritually? There is such a thing as an algorithm that navigates and um, perpetuates our structural experience.
What tell us more about that? What can you tell us about the algorithm? What kind of algorithm? What's it computing? What's it doing? What's it saying?
So, when we talk about a spiritual algorithm, and I say this because when they design, in ones and zeros, coming up with algorithms
Hmm.
in social media, it's not like it's a new concept. It exists in your life too. Obviously, what you choose to consume, what you choose to believe, how you choose to invest your energy creates your experiences. Um, it's as simple as, like, a physics experiment is the same way. This The energy is going to move in the way that the energy is applied, right? So when we talk about a spiritual algorithm, the universe does function much like social media, and this isn't a new concept, where your focus goes, that's your energy, that's your energetic currency. And just like in physics, form follows energy. So where you're placing your energy, structure, and formation is created.
So if you are constantly on social media and if you are constantly absorbing negative news and all this, the world is ending and the climate change and oh my God, everyone's trying to kill each other and there's going to be a civil war in the United States and then all this other, and if that's all you consume,
Mhm.
then if that's the only thing that you ever hear, what are you going to think about? Right?
That's what you're going to think about. That's what you're going to ruminate. And I mean, if we want to go down, there are people who are like, oh, well, this is crazy because your thoughts don't control. But yes, we do know that they control
Yes.
how your life performs, because if that weren't the case, psychology would not be what it is now. So whether you want to accept the fact that if this is what you consume and this is what you take in, you subconsciously and unconsciously will then create a self-fulfilling prophecy, or this is what you take in, this is what you consume. So, what you think you're seeing is what you see. And then lastly, your brain loves to be right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's going to reinforce confirmation bias
Yes.
if it
Your little
thinks, yes,
dopamine, those little dopamine hits.
yes, because it thinks that it is doing the job of protecting you if it sees the information that you're feeding into it.
Yeah. That's why so many people do the virtue signaling. It's like, oh, look what I did. I put a Ukrainian flag on my bio. I did a great thing. Dopamine hit.
Well, and then you don't actually have to do the deep, dark, shadowy work
Right.
of going to the shadow shack and facing, your inner demons, which everybody has.
So is that something you want to get into, the Shadow Shack? What did you have for your rough draft for this episode one? I can't even Ducks in Space.
Ducks
What
in
did you
space.
Ducks in
Um,
Space? What did you have written down for us?
so basically, I think that we are all wonderful ducks who should leave this earth and create new life in space, sort of. But yes, it was kind of about making your way to freedom and then understanding like your personal power, because we do have that. Everybody, oh, well, all these things are happening. Yeah, so what? All these things have been happening for, I don't know, how long have humans been on this planet?
Well, probably a lot longer than we've been told in history class.
This is true. But there's always an excuse not to do. Like, and I get it because it's easy, right?
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah.
And then
No,
you don't have to feel responsible or whatever, and you could just say, "Oh, well, the world's ending, so."
and I'm glad you said that. You don't have to feel responsible, so you can blame other people. You blame everyone else. It's like, no, 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 no. This wasn't my fault. The world, that goes back to what you said about being passive about your life. You say, the world did this to me. I didn't
Yeah.
do this to me. The world did this to me. And now I'm mad. And now I'm going to start blaming people. It's your fault and it's your fault. And you have to make up for it. I don't have to do anything. You did all of this to me.
And I can make it a little bit easier and more palatable, I guess, in the sense that it's not just that you're blaming other people. It's that you are in every facet of your existence, in your physical reality, in your emotional being, in your mental being, and in your spiritual being, you are giving your power away.
Yes.
You are saying that I am enslaved to all these circumstances. And I don't say this in a way that discredits anybody's personal lived traumas. I promise you. I say
Right.
this
Yes.
as knowing that the way through the way through those dark experiences is to pull your power back and to acknowledge your worth and what you're capable of.
It's a difficult thing. Like you said, especially for people who have experienced some kind of extreme trauma, it's very difficult to look at yourself and think that you have some kind of value.
Yes, but you
Um,
always do.
you
I
you
don't
you
care what
always do.
anybody did to you.
To
I-
100% agree.
And
I
they're
totally
still wrong, and I don't excuse their actions, but I want you to
that's
take
correct.
your power back
Right.
because
Yeah.
you deserve to. You deserve that for yourself.
And it's this is where you and I differ because I still think that people like I think all the pederasses and groomers and stuff like that. I think they can be removed from society. I'm not having that. I'm done with that.
And I wouldn't say that we
Done with that crowd.
necessarily disagree, but what I would say is that as a society, we have treated children as if they are property for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean that in that aspect. I mean, even the aspect in that we raise them where, like screaming at your child and losing your temper as an adult doesn't teach that child to be a healthy adult at all. Um, Acting like your child is not worthy of some type of respect or healthy discourse in general, where you sit down and you work out your problems in a way that is effective in communication, because otherwise this authoritarian approach, which has been in place for I don't even know how long, um, it teaches them to go out and find relationships where they're treated that way,
Yeah.
where their boundaries don't matter, where their voice doesn't matter. And I think as a society, we have put children in this place. And now we're seeing that some of the extremes of that means that
Oh,
children are being violated in X, Y, and Z way.
so it's
And that's
awful.
not that's not right. But we as a whole have created that avenue. Like, unfortunately,
Yeah.
nobody is exempt from that being what it is now.
Yeah. I mean, you like you said, as a whole, as a collective consciousness, we have allowed this to happen.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, and that's another thing that people have to admit, right? Man, people hate admitting when they're wrong. They can't do it. They don't want to do it. They hate it.
Yeah.
They hate it. They admit they're wrong. It means that something is wrong about the world they believe in. It's like, well, wait a minute. I believe that. It's like, wait a minute. It can't be. I know that's right. I've always known that's right. How can I be wrong? I'm not going to admit I'm wrong. No, 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 no.
I think that's part of it. I think if we were to talk about male psychology, like at its core, based in like the primal survival aspect, where that's what men were responsible for. If a man was wrong, it usually meant that those he was supposed to protect suffered. I think that's still very much ingrained.
Mm,
I think for women, when women are wrong, it meant that physical harm comes to them or their children typically. So there are these deep rooted things that play into that.
hmm.
I also do think that our society has made it to where when you're wrong, what it really means is you didn't follow groupthink and you're the weirdo and you're the outcast. Now, most
When,
of us who went to
when,
public school who were weirdos and outcasts don't care anymore, but
uh,
think about everybody else who was around you.
yeah, yeah. You see, you're saying that society, when you step out of that, and when you start going against the grain, now you're labeled as the weirdo. You're the freak.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
right.
literally what public education ingrains in somebody. You must follow the group. If you don't, you sit alone at lunch, or if you don't, you fail this class, or if you question too much, you get detention. Like,
It's sent to the principal's office. It's like, well, he's asking questions about blah blah blah. He can't do that. It's not what we're teaching. It's
yeah,
That's like Have you seen they've got videos out there now where kids, I mean, because kids everywhere have phones and they're recording stuff that's happening in public schools in their classrooms. Is your microphone okay? It keeps muffling around.
It keeps hitting a necklace that I'm wearing. It's
Oh,
my
okay.
fault.
Okay. Um, so the public school, I forgot I was saying I had a mini stroke. I do this all the time. This happens to me.
Kids
I have
have
mini strokes.
phones everywhere, and
Kids
they're
have phones.
recording things.
Yes, and they're recording things. So there's several videos out there. Um, where there was one I just saw. I think this might have been in Canada, but this teaser they were showing
Oh, come
some video about gay sex in a public school, with like 14 and 15-year-olds. And the kids were telling the kids were saying, "Why are you showing us this? It's like, we don't want to see this. Why are you showing us this?" And the kids were
Right.
recording this, and the teacher snapped. The teacher said, "I will give you like all detention." It's like, you are all bigots. She went off on them.
So I find this interesting for two reasons. One, I remember in high school, essentially, if we were watching an R-rated movie at any point before we were 17, we still needed our parents to sign a permission slip.
Mm.
And that would include like any swears, any type of like nudity, any contact of a sexual nature, regardless of somebody's orientation, right? So that's interesting. But then I also think about this sad fact that so there are individuals who are homosexual. That's their legitimate lifestyle. That's how they, because I mean naturally in nature there's going to be a percentage of people who are going to come out that way. Now, when we talk about it perpetuating into a far population, do I agree with that idea? Probably not, because it would be a mutation that essentially wouldn't support itself. It would be a self-terminating
Yeah,
mutation because they
right.
can't reproduce. But I do believe those people exist. I do believe that they're legitimate. And most of them that I know don't want all of this craziness happening.
I was just gonna say that.
They know that it's making their lives more difficult.
Yes. Your average
And
gay your average gay person, they're just like someone who goes to a 9 to 5 job, or
yes.
whatever. And they're not part of this whole LGBTQI plus whatever it is, blah 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 blah. Um, it's
Well,
it's
it's
this.
taking that individuality of a person away and saying you must identify with this group and think like we think.
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah. Why? Tell us why.
Why? Everybody is allowed to have their orientation and not show up to your parade and to do whatever it is that they feel they need to do and have the opinions that they feel they need to have.
The parades are out of control. I'm done with the parades because they had one just recently where there were grown
Oh,
men riding around bikes, and they were nude. They had nothing on. They were just riding bikes, and there were children at the parade. There were
yeah.
children at the parade. So I'm done with that. I'm done with that.
Yeah,
That's done. Over.
this
Goodbye.
subject this subject makes me really sad.
And again, just your average like gay person who just lives their life. That's the freak who got naked on a bike in front of children and thought it was okay. That's not your average gay person.
Well, and then again, I'm not an either or, I'm a nor, like as far as politics go, but I think that people have a right to be who they are, so long as they are not damaging other people, right?
Yeah.
I
I
don't because if we go down this path of like, we're going to decide what's valid and what's not, unfortunately, then, you've created an element of bureaucracy that gets to decide and dictate. I don't believe in that. And I
Well,
never will.
I and I understand what you're saying. The government, as is right now, that needs to be dismantled. It is just a sham. It
I
is.
wouldn't,
Uh,
I don't know
oh
about
my goodness gracious!
dismantling it. I will say this. The politicians have done a great job at making sure it burns to the ground because they've all run off with the money that's now worth,
Nothing.
less than the monopoly. Yeah. So
Yeah, worth nothing. So let it burn. Let it burn to the ground.
yes,
Um,
and instead of reveling at, the spectacle of destruction, I would encourage people to create and be the hearts of their communities.
yeah, don't. While it burns, don't give your energy to those politicians and don't give your energy to all of their bullshit. Again, it comes back to what you said earlier. You need to focus on yourself, focus on building communities. What are you going to do? And you spoke about that yesterday about like the local elections, right?
I mean, that's one aspect, but truthfully, if I were going to give any form of peculiar pursuits advice, the first thing I would tell you to do is turn off the news.
Yeah,
Turn it off.
yeah.
It is
I've
not
always
news for you. It's news for somebody else.
Yeah, and I've always wanted to do an experiment where what would happen if just for like 1 week, 1 7-day week, that nobody watched any news, nobody read a newspaper, no one looked at their phone, nothing. There was disconnected from everything. I think that would be an interesting experiment. I don't know. There's no way that it'll ever happen, but whatever.
I don't know. I think we're getting there. And overnight, a lot of problems would be solved. The second thing I would tell people to do is plant vegetables.
Yes.
Um, Not only is it a rewarding experience for you to directly interact with the cycle of creating life, harvesting, and then that life nourishes you. So the energy that you're putting into this effort actually becomes nourishment for you. But it gives you an avenue towards independence.
I would love to have a garden and some chickens and some cows and all sorts of stuff. We got to get land. People get land. Get
Yes,
land.
but
My
wherever you are
goodness.
now, the- if you like cilantro, grow cilantro. Just don't put it
Huh,
next to dill because it'll cross pollinate, and then you'll have dillantro. I learned that the hard way this year.
what the hell is cilantro?
It's where cilantro cross pollinates with dill.
What the hell
So
does
it's
that taste like?
I don't know. I'm gonna find out though, ain't I?
What do you put it on?
I don't know. I'm gonna put it on something because it's growing.
Well, you put cilantro on tacos. It's really good on like street tacos. Dill,
It goes in
um,
borscht.
yeah, dill goes in borscht or dill cheese is really good. I like dill cheese.
So it's weird. It's fine.
Oh shoot, this person on StreamYard's chatting with me. The customer support is chatting with me. Can you
Oh,
please send me a screenshot of your current RTMP setup? Um, I actually you we got moved over to one of my YouTube channels, so we are being recorded on YouTube on one of my channels. Don't freak out. I'm not going to keep it there. I had to do something quick to get it recorded.
I would have made sure I didn't say any keywords then, but I tried to, in general, I try to, I don't know, be very mindful. It's not that I don't want to offend people or anything. It's more that
Y-
I
You're
want to
not.
speak, I want to always be able to speak to the goodness in somebody. And because we live in a society now that wants to assign general labels and then decide wholesale that a person's words don't mean anything because they fit into X, Y, or Z category instead of understanding that, you know, somebody can think differently than you and still have marvelous, groundbreaking ideas.
Well, you haven't said any of the keywords or anything like that. I know what you're talking about. We're not going to stay on YouTube. Like I said, I just threw it out there so to make sure that we could get something recorded because I don't see the record button here. Again, this is my first time using the setup, and I feel really stupid right now.
No,
Just
technology is a evil gremlin sometimes.
sometimes. Sometimes. That reminds me, one of the benefits of social media is you can communicate with like-minded people. I mean, that that's how you and I met. You
This is
know,
true.
that's how you and I met. We met through a mutual acquaintance at the end of 2018, I
That
think
is
it was.
correct. That
At the
is
end of
correct.
right, like before Christmas or 2018, something like that. I don't know.
Yep.
I
See?
I remember because I remember you were sending me Whitechapel songs.
Yes, because you responded to a post I made about meditation and metal music.
Yes.
Highly encourage.
So,
The other the other things I would encourage is, so we were talking about local elections, but I would be more specific and say cultivate your local communities. Um,
yes, yes.
whatever it is that you like, whatever your shared interests are,
Know your
whatever
neighbors.
whatever your talents are in general.
Yeah. Yeah, know your neighbors and see is there a plumber on your street? Is there an electrician on your street? Is there a guy on your block who knows how to work on cars? Do you know how to work on cars?
No,
Can you do well, no, I don't really either. Um my
my
truck
husband
is
does.
yeah, I know he does. I know he does. God, I wish he was here right now because my truck is not it's broken.
It's broke. Oh,
It's
um,
broken. Matter of fact, it broke down in the middle of a busy intersection, and I was just sitting there like a jackass with my flashers on, just having to wave people to the light. It's like, go around me. I'm not moving. I'm obviously not moving. Go around me.
text him, see if he can help you. Um, because yes, having those connections with people who have the skills that you don't have, and then you meet them with the skills that you have. I mean, that's the way that the world has worked
Yeah,
up until, like, even I would say probably into the 40s and the 50s. It probably didn't really move away from that until the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. Like, that's when our modern world of not having communities where there were shared skills began, right?
yeah.
Um,
Well, and so again, social media is taking us away from knowing our neighbors and knowing those things. It's it's weird though because
you can still build communities in an unconventional way.
yeah, and there's a lot of people online who are sharing, their work who you can go on say YouTube right now and you can search for anything like how do I install a toilet? How do I build this? How do I put grout on the floor? How do I replace, the
I
spark
still
plugs in my
recommend you talk to somebody who
I
knows how to do it
I do
because
too. I do
uh,
too. But there
I
are some
installed a
people.
toilet from this YouTube video, and now my bathroom is flooded.
Oh, geez.
That's
I
fine.
haven't done that yet. I haven't taken anything off of YouTube yet other than trauma. So
Yes,
that's the only thing that YouTube's given me. So thanks for nothing, Google.
but I would recommend YouTube if you are trying to learn to cook, which is the next
Yes.
item here. Learn to cook food because everywhere that you go, most of the food that you're served is filled with things that will give you diabetes, and most of the your pre-prepared or processed food is also filled with things that will give you cancer or diabetes
Oh yes.
or diabetes cancer, whichever. It unfortunately that's just how it goes.
And of course, that just feeds into the pharma industry, the cancer industry. Cancer is big business, and they love it. They
They
love it.
do.
They
They
love
do.
having cancer patients. I mean, they don't want to cure anything. They're not going to take that stuff out of food because they don't want to cure anything, because if they cure you, they don't have any customers.
Well, and you reminded me of this weird random fun fact that's in my brain where of all of the drugs that have been approved by the FDA, I think only like and there's like 200 plus something, but I think only like 5 or 6 of them actually cure anything. The rest of them don't cure
Yeah.
anything at all. So there's that. The next thing on this list for, okay, the world's on fire, so what should I be doing instead to enrich myself? It just says do the hard things.
Yes, do the difficult. There's the what was it? There was a gym I went to when I lived in a very small farm town, and there was only like 300 people in this town, but there was a town not far down the road, and on the wall it said, "If it's hard, you should probably be doing it."
Mm-hmm.
You know, I a lot of analogies I make will go back to the gym, right? Like lift it. Well,
Lift the heavy things.
think about it, like if somebody wants to bench press 315 pounds, they're not just going to walk in the gym day one and do it, right? It's like they're going to go in and they're going to start with one plate. It's like they have to be consistent, they have
Yep.
to eat right, they have to get good sleep, they have to keep a schedule, and eventually, over time, you build up and you become stronger physically. You can also do that with your mind, and you can do that with your heart, and you can do that with your soul. And that's what you're
Yep.
talking about.
Yep. Because obviously do lift the heavy things, but also do the mental and emotional work, which is your shadow work, your working to be in touch with your subconscious, and then doing spiritual work, because you are not just a body, you are not just a mind, you are not just emotions, you are not just a spirit, you are all of these things combined.
Yeah. You sent me that one meme, where it's like, you're a thing of bones, like you're a meat sack on a rock flying through space a million
Hurtling
miles.
through space.
Yeah. God, what is that? Okay, I'm gonna find it now.
Okay. The
I
next
think.
thing, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The next thing on this list is, like you were saying, be in touch with your neighbors, and in general, have face to face conversations. It's important with your friends, with your family, with everybody in your life.
Well, yeah, get to know your neighbors. Like we had some neighbors move in next door, and um, uh, I just the other day, they were trying to put a piano in the back of their truck, and I could see they're having a hard time, and I was out tending something in the lawn, and I said, "Do you need some help?" And they said, "Yeah, if you don't mind." And I ran over and I helped them, and I shook their hands and said hello, and just went back to doing what I was doing, and that was it.
And they probably thought that was one of the greatest things ever,
Yeah, and that was it. And I just and
because
like,
people don't help each other anymore. But they
right.
do if you do it. Oh my
It,
goodness, it's that
it,
simple.
and it right, how, like, think about how simple it was just to help somebody, right?
Yeah,
And if everybody did just like one little thing like that a day, think how different the world would be.
it does actually create a ripple effect outward, because that type of energy is infectious. It's infectious in the way that when you inspire another person or you uplift another person, they move from the place that they were before, and they're encouraged to move in that same direction that you moved. Again, it's the spiritual algorithm that you can literally affect other people's algorithm by like, oh, I like this, but like physically doing it by, going and helping somebody or being nice to them or listening to them when they're struggling, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't just do the virtue signaling.
No, it doesn't help.
No, it does nothing. It's just a little shot of dopamine.
So the next thing on this list too, okay, the world's on fire. So what should I do for myself to enrich myself? Go spend time in nature.
Oh yes, we did. We talked about that as well.
Hmm.
Oh, I feel so good in nature. That's my church. Nature is my church.
It reminds you of the simplicity of the cycles that actually rule reality, because what seems to rule reality at this point in time is only seemingly that way, or the only reason you have that perception is because of things like electricity and your phone and all these other things. But truthfully, without the infrastructure, that is cost trillions of tax dollars at this point. Without that, and in the face of a coronal mass ejection, none of that stuff exists. It's not the ultimate truth of the reality that you exist in. It is one that is propped up by, well, comforts that we are fortunate enough to experience, but our ancestors
Yeah.
have no concept of.
Oh no no no. They were more hardy than we. They were hardier people than we are. They were tougher. They had a much more difficult time, um, and I doubt they complained as much as we do to today.
Yes, I will say this though, they were also free.
Yes, they
So
were.
of course they're not going to complain because, well, they're not paying taxes in the same way. Now, are they contributing to a community? Yes,
Yeah.
because the leisure is about balancing life and death and survival versus scarcity, like things that are very real that can't be easily obfuscated. Either you're eating food or you're not eating food. Nobody can come in and convince you that you ate food when you didn't eat food.
Right.
Unlike today, where go look at what's in a honey bun, it's not food.
Oh Lord. Yeah, that's not food. One of my friends from high school, they live out in Arizona, and his wife is she's a teacher. I can't remember what grade. I want to say fifth grade, but they were talking about food, and she said one of her kids said, "Food comes from a box."
No.
Yeah, and just think about that for a second. Food comes from a box. So this kid thinks that all of their nutrients, everything they will ever need, is going to be sitting on that grocery store shelf, right? And I'm
Mm.
not necessarily talking about, scarcity or, runs on the grocery store or anything like that. I'm just talking about like what you said, that people think that a honey bun is just fine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I see people. Well, when I was going in the office, I do have a 9 to 5 job. Um, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that.
It's
Uh,
okay.
that's the
He's like,
trauma.
oh, my trauma. Yes, exactly. My
That's
trauma.
the
Oh,
trauma.
I'm having a flashback. And oh, wait, we're back.
You say trauma, I say ooh, spicy memory.
Oh,
Mm.
not spicy in the good way.
No,
The
not at all.
very last thing on this list, which is the most important, because when you move more towards a state of being free, there's a counterbalance to this, and I'm going to list what's here, and then I'm going to read a very important quote afterwards, because ultimately this is what is important. So the last thing on this list is taking responsibility. Um, with the caveat here being, regardless of the chaos around us, the formula for a fulfilled life remains the same. And I will add that only you can give yourself that. Nobody else can do it for you.
Yes, yes, yes. That's very true. I can't add anything to that quote because it's 100% true. I just agree with it. It's no one is going to do the work for you, and you do have the capability to do it. You can do it. Look, I've been to shit. Look, listen, listen up, people. I've been to rehab 7 times. Seven, seven damn times. I stabbed myself in the chest with a hunting knife. I'm still alive. If I can
Mhm.
do this, you guys can do it. Anyone can do it. You can build a stronger self. Okay? Start with a stronger self. And as you said, Dr. Jet, as you said, Doc, the stronger that you become, the more it goes outward, right?
Yeah.
The people around you will absorb that and they will become stronger, and the people around them will absorb it, and so on and so forth, and then we'll expand. And that's what we have to do.
And
A
there's
lot
the
of
concept of, as I heal myself, I thus I heal others, because if I can create the neural pathway, and if what we understand that's described by Carl Jung about this collective unconsciousness, if I create the pathway and a few others create the pathway, then it's available to all of humanity.
mm,
Not only that, but the people who are the most successfully integrated within themselves, and they're like, I'm here to be I'm here to be the humanist human I can be, or I guess not the humanist human, but the highest version of myself that I can be.
right.
They're
Yeah.
naturally going to create around them things that are nourishing, things that are sustainable, things that create better ways of being,
Things that will
because
last, things that are true.
they came here to play on hard mode and beat the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Complete all the quests, get all the XP.
right. Do all the side quests, everything.
Yeah.
Everything, all the side quests, and that's kind of what it is right now. It's like, you've completed the game. If you've been
If you
through
figured it out.
yes, if you figured it out, and a lot of times figuring it out does come from some kind of trauma, right? I mean, it's people not I'm not saying everyone has to go through something horrible. What I'm saying is that people need to struggle at certain times in their lives. You need to have difficult times in your life so you can learn how to overcome the struggle. And
Yes.
it doesn't necessarily have to be trauma, like trauma, but you know,
I mean, we
I'm
live in a
rambling.
society with enough goofiness that isn't funny, that, trauma is both a dime a dozen and also, not at the same time. It depends. There are some people who I would say in this country have lived some very great lives, but there are also people in this country who have not lived great lives. And the same is true everywhere else throughout our
Yeah,
world.
right. Well, and we have people now, it's like we're doing the trauma Olympics. They'll go out on Twitter and they will say, well, I'm this, and this, and I'm being attacked. Or there's these people who go out and they say it's like the Dylan Mulvaney's and stuff like that, and they go out, they say they're trans, and they're doing it for clout, and they say they're gay and they're doing it for clout, and then they say, oh, I was attacked the other day, or oh, I was confronted the other day about being trans, and they will wear shirts that say end trans genocide. And it's like, where is this coming from?
I
You know,
mean,
I mean,
the
people,
the,
it's
the
like
baseline
people
the
want trauma.
the
That's what they're
baseline
acting like.
response is these people are probably scared of who they actually may or may not be, meaning that eh, individuation is a messy process. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's very there are so many different things that you could look at. I mean, not just from what's in our food to what's being taught to all of these different aspects of being that again don't actually value what a child needs in development, which is a certain amount of protection of innocence and then a certain amount of building up this individual as somebody who is valued and has autonomy and is worthy to be treated with respect as they are, legitimately as they are, as nature has made them and intended them to be.
And it comes back to what you said about, um, we're just treating kids as property, you know. I
Yes,
mean,
and now
it,
they're literally used as badges in ways that I
yes.
just can't
Uh,
understand. But
ways that are absolutely horrid. Just horrid.
but
Uh,
on the other side of that, there's the realization of, oh, so now that we see that this is happening, we can decide. And I understand when people are frustrated when they look at the world and they see
mhm.
these things, but you can't save the entire world. I do not care who you
Oh no.
are.
No, you cannot. No, you cannot. But you can, and what you're saying is when you see something like that occur, you can go, I'm disconnecting from that and I will never do that. In fact, like with my kid, I'm going to do the exact opposite and it's the right thing.
I choose to be I choose to live in a way that's an
Right?
antidote to what I see. I choose to be
Live,
more than that which tries to bring me down.
I choose to stand in the light.
Yes.
I choose to stand in the light, even though there are moments when I've had to visit the dark, because you have to do it. You have to do the shadow work, and that's something we should explore maybe on episode 2 or 3 or something like that. More about the shadow work,
The
um,
shadowy shack.
the shadowy shack, the shadow shack, episode 2, the shadow shack. I'm writing that down.
But it's an accurate moment of, okay, so I'm seeing these things I don't like. I'm going to, because you don't want to feed your emotional energy into all these things. Every video you watch or that's pushed in any social media wants some type of a reaction from you, or you're watching a video of somebody reacting to reactions, and at some point you have to go, what is this doing for me? What have I read lately? What have I taught myself? What am I doing in my own life?
Um, man, I used to be addicted to my phone every single morning. Every single morning, I would wake up and I would just, the first thing I would do is I would just go straight to YouTube and see, it's like, oh, what are the channels saying today? Because I was getting a lot of, well, I still do. I still get a lot of, there are good people on YouTube who are trying to tell the truth, who are trying to do real news, who are actually going out and being journalists in the field and trying to do good things. There are people like that on Twitter. There are people like that on social media. You just have to look for them. You have to find them, right?
Yes.
But again, what you're saying is even these people who are being true journalists, they're actually telling us what's really going on because they actually want us to be informed and make informed decisions. Even though those people exist, the topic that they could be covering, they could all be covering a very negative thing, right? And if that's the only information that you ever absorb, your thoughts will be negative.
Yes.
So go ahead.
And beyond that, though, like, why are we not teaching how to successfully use, let's say half of your yard as a garden that can feed you? Or why are we not promoting knowing how to forage for plants, berries, things like that to survive?
So
We
you're
already know that public education sucks. We already know that our politicians don't care about us. We already know that our tax dollars are spent on garbage things. We already know that. So, since we know that, how do we move in a way where it doesn't matter? I think one of the phrases in my mind a couple of months ago was we have the power to make the government useless by being
yeah.
able to do the things that they provide ourselves, or creating businesses that do what they do without, you know, losing $5 billion for no reason, you know.
Yeah. Jeez. $5 billion. Um, this has been an interesting taste of the first episode of the Weird Room. I just have thoughts going all over the place. I'm not smelling any burnt toast or anything. That's good. Um, that was a really random thought. Why the hell did I even say that? I don't know. See, this is what my brain does. I think it's like I think I'm somewhere on the like the autism scale, but it's just, like slightly, just kind of like up the scale a little bit. And
Yeah.
I think maybe all the drinking and drugging and everything that I did for like 20 years, I think it gave me maybe some kind, I don't know. I know it gave me a lot of brain damage.
Maybe
So,
now you have like telekinesis, or you can astral project, though. So who knows?
well, my
There's always hope.
yeah, I will just say random shit all the time, and it's like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Did you have anything else on your rough draft? Did you have anything else on your list that you wanted to do for the first episode?
I think I think we will save that for another episode, probably about sunflowers or something.
Hmm. Sunflowers. Well, I've written down several things that you have brought up that could be potential topics. Of course, I mean, where we can dive deeper in. This is just the first episode, and I think what we did, and I think we did a pretty good job of just giving you, the viewer, who, if you're out there, and if you are, we appreciate it. We really do. Um, we just wanted to kind of give you a taste of what we talk about, our how we view the world, and what we're trying to do. Just what we're trying to do with this channel. This is what the channel's like, and it's probably going to get more weird than this. It's probably going to
I
get a lot.
hope so.
It's Yeah, it's going to get a lot weirder than this. Not in a bad way. Not in
No.
like, I'm not going to be riding a bicycle naked or anything like that. So
Well,
don't
thank
think
God.
about that. Yeah, nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. God, especially me sitting on a bike naked. It's weird. No, God, no. Fuck, no. Um, huh. How do you even say that? But look, um, we can, shadow work, the Shadow Shack. That could be episode 2 or 3 or something like that. We've got so many things to talk about. I mean, the public education system is one. Survival, gardening, things like that, building communities, getting to know your neighbors, stuff like that. I mean, health. We could do so many episodes on exercise and health and stuff
And I
like
think
that.
the overall goal is to encourage and to remind people that they are capable, that they have the ability to do these things, and
Yes.
that just because the world is on fire doesn't mean that, you can't, I don't know, grab some water, put it out, and then grow yourself something instead.
Yeah.
Create things. You don't
It,
have to
it,
let the fire take you.
I think kind of what deep down maybe we've done with this channel is we we both know that we're a special kind of weird, and we want to share it with the world because we want the rest of the world, we want you, the viewer, to understand that it's okay to be your weird self. It's okay to do these things, to do the shadow work and go against the grain. It's okay to do this. You
It's
will
okay
be
to embrace your spirituality.
Yes, you will be fine. You will be fine. Yes, you will go through difficult times, and not everything is going to go your way. And there's not going to be a pill to make you happy for everything. So what? You will be fine. You'll be fine. Everything will be okay. You got to put in the work. You have to do the work, but everything will be fine.
And those spiritual aspects do create that resiliency. They create this ability to be like, oh, I see this chaos. It's just clearing the way for me. And you move with that confidence.
Yep.
And that's a powerful thing. I just want to empower people. That's what I've learned about myself today.
That's it. I mean, that's it. That's perfectly said. That's exactly what we do, or what we're trying to do. It's what we're trying to do. But I think I think we'll wrap up the first episode
Yes,
of the
sir.
Weird Room. Sound like a good idea?
Yes.
Well, if there's anyone out there watching, and it doesn't look like there is, but if anyone happens to watch this, and you've made it this
Someday.
far, if you've made it this far, I mean, God bless, Godspeed. Um, Thank you, though. Thank you very much. We're gonna keep doing this, and like Dr. Jet Jupiter said, we just want to empower people. We just want to let people know that it's okay to be yourself. And this has been we really enjoy talking to one another. So we're just gonna be ourselves, and hopefully you will be yourself, and you can show up, and you can do whatever you want. Do whatever you want,
And
but it,
offer something great to this world around us because that's what everyone's here to do.
yes. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Doc, before we sign off?
Don't let people steal your joy. That's what they want from you. Be a rebel and keep it.
I very much like that. Don't let people steal your joy. Well, you know what? We'll just keep it right there. Don't let people steal your joy, okay? So, for Dr. Jet Jupiter, I am Groombach the Groovy. Thank you so much for joining us at episode 1 of The Weird Room. We will see you. How often are we going to do this?
It's a secret. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Okay. I will send out something on. Oh, we'll be on. We're going to be on Kick. We'll be on Locals. We will be on. We'll maybe be on Discord. We probably won't be on YouTube that much, just to let everybody know. And I will send out some messages on the Locals and the Kick and everything like that to let people know when other episodes are coming up. So, for Dr. Jet Jupiter, the Professor of Peculiar Pursuits, the PPP.
Oh, yeah.
I am Groombach the Groovy. We are signing off. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. And good night.
Good Nacht.